It's this week 14 of the NFL. Exciting weekend of football, especially this Sunday. Man, I'm so excited. You already know why. My Jacksonville Jaguars, my favorite team. They looking like a real team. They had a very key divisional matchup today against Indianapolis Colts, and they went in there. They took care of business. Man, you know, they could have put up more points on the board, I believe. That was honestly one of Trevor Lawrence's best games he's played in a long time. The running game looked good again. You know, 18 didn't get over 100. I thought he was going to get it, but he still he's been productive all year. So when Trevor Lawrence is productive, Travis 18 is productive, the team looks really good. And also, I got to give credit to the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line. Y'all have played very well this year, and you're getting better, actually. I don't see any decline in you. You're getting better. I think at the beginning of the year, especially when they were at 4-3, I think they had to get used to each other. That unit had to get used to each other, know how to play. But I think they got a hold of it now, and I like how no one talking about us right now, and we're just under the radar. All I will ask is just keep winning the games and keep that same mentality. And I love the Houston game. I love the mindset they've had after the Houston collapse, because that was the biggest collapse in Jacksonville Jaguar history right there. They gave the Houston Texans life to be still in consideration for the division in the AFC South. And I just like the fact that they have overcome that part, and that they're out here like just winning the games, just taking it one game at a time. They're not looking at opponent and just thinking, hey, we could beat this team. Like they play the Jets next week. On paper, it looks like they should easily win that game. But I think they're going to take that game into consideration just like they took this one. You know, you got to keep that intensity at the highest level from here on out. Every game is a playoff game. You have to treat it like that. Every game is an elimination game. You got to think that, if you lose this game, you're going to lose. You're going to lose it for the playoffs. You got to think like that as well. So I'm very impressed with this team. Uh, the tenacity of the defense. I love how they always are looking to get the ball. That's something that is big this year with that team on that side of the ball for the Jaguars is getting turnovers. Years past, they hadn't been getting turnovers and stuff like that, or sacks, you know. And this year, they haven't been getting a lot of sacks, but they have been getting a lot of good pressure, causing the turnovers, especially the interceptions. But they've been getting interceptions and fumbles. I believe today they had 3 turnovers. So they've had several games this year with multiple turnovers. And I noticed when the team gets multiple turnovers, the team plays extremely well. Extremely well. Liam Cohen has come in and done an outstanding job coaching this team. His Duval speech that had everybody all messed up, but I think we done overlooked that. And if they could go out and close it and go all the way, he could say Duval like that all day long. But he's done an exceptional job coaching this team. Trevor Lawrence, under his command, has looked better. I think it's like a more modernized quarterback system, that he's doing. I believe Doug Peterson did help Trevor Lawrence as well, but I think that offense that he was running was more of a. We've seen that offense before. It's like a West Coast offense, and it kind of got predictable, especially the latter part of 2023 and then all of 2024. The offense started becoming very predictable. The coordinator at the time, Press Taylor, he started becoming very, very predictable with his play calling. That ultimately cost Doug Peterson his job. But Liam Cohen and the new staff and the new regime, the defense coordinator, Anthony Campanella, I believe that's his name, they have really coached these guys up, and everybody's looking so good right now for these Jaguars. So I'm very excited, especially if they win against the Jets in week 15, and then they come to Denver in Week 16, and they play the Broncos, which I would love them to flex that game into the Sunday night primetime game and take out Cincinnati, Miami. I don't, those are two teams that are still in the hunt and stuff like that. But I would rather see Jacksonville versus Denver on Sunday night, considering it could be for a number 2 seed possibly. So that's the game I would love to see them flex out. But if they don't, they don't. But the fact that these Jaguars are 9-4 right now at this point in the season is just, if you've been a Jaguar fan like me, I've been all my life, like, you're just so excited for this team. And I just want to see them just keep building, keep winning. And, like I said, Trevor Lawrence today was his best game he has played in a long time, like passing the ball, like overall. He didn't make no turnovers. When he doesn't make no turnovers and the defense gets turnovers like that, that's the kind of games I think this team is capable of having all the time. So definitely them Jaguars, they looking up. The Texans and the Chiefs game tonight, I thought the Chiefs was going to rebound and probably, get back into the playoff mix. But I think Andy Reid beat himself tonight. Those fourth down plays, on your side of the field, I don't think those were good calls. Uh, like I said, that first fourth down should have been a hard count, but they actually wanted to go for it. It just didn't get executed at all. The pass was incomplete. Then Houston took advantage of that right away, scoring that touchdown. And then, Travis Kelce, your hands on the ball, you got to catch it. That was a killer right there. Like, he dropped the first one when he bent down at a bad angle. He dropped that one. But then the second one, like, it was on your hands. All you have to do is pull it in. Like, you don't have to make no exceptional play right now. Like, this ain't the time. You're on your own 7-yard line. Just make the catch, fall down. You still got time. You still got a whole lot of field to play with. They didn't do that. So, they beat themselves for sure. And it doesn't look like we ain't going to see no Kansas City Chiefs in no playoffs this year. That's for sure. I mean, because they're 6-7. They're favored in all their games from here on out. But I think the Chiefs have been figured out. The offensive line, they're going to have to get some better offensive linemen if they want to keep what Patrick Mahomes does for years down the stretch. They're going to have to do that. Get an actual running back. Get a solid running back. I think if they get a solid running back, they could get back to being, an explosive offense. But it ain't looking like that right now. So I don't think we'll see them in no playoffs this year at all. And Kansas City Chiefs fans, you're going to have to wait for what they do next year because it ain't going to happen now. Let's see, the Packers beating the Bears. That was a big game. Chicago was the surprise number 1 seed for a week. But I think they'll still get in the playoffs and stuff like that. But the Packers, that was a big must-win for them at home in the division. So that keeps them in the mix for sure. They look like a pretty good team in the playoffs if they get there this year. Jordan Love, I think this will be his second year, consecutive year in the playoffs. So I think he'll do better this go round in the playoffs here. Caleb Williams, he's played very, very well this year for the Bears. And, I think they'll get in, but they might not do that much noise. They could win a wild card round, but I can't see them going beyond the divisional or to the NFC Championship. But that was a good win for the Green Bay Packers today. Miami Dolphins over the Jets. That was just the Jets have just played poorly on offense all year. I believe I don't know if Tyrod Taylor was injured, but it looks like they had put in Brady Cook and he took over. And I mean, when you start having names you can't recognize, that it just that pretty much sums up your season right there. Like so the Jets, man, Aaron Glenn, I think he's a good coach, but I just don't think that it's gonna work. I don't think that's gonna work out there like this year for trying to have an identity to see what you got. Like, you're gonna have to go look for something. Justin Fields as your quarterback. I thought Justin Fields had potential, but for some reason it's just not clicking in the NFL. It's just not for him. So the Miami Dolphins, they still have a outside shot, but they need a lot of help to get back in the mix. Uh, the matchup today that I really liked, it was a terrible game for the matchup, but the Tennessee Titans versus the Cleveland Browns, Cam Ward versus Shador Sanders. That was pretty interesting to see there. Shador had the best passing game of all the quarterbacks. Son. He threw for 364 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But I think it's very strange that his head coach would take him out on the 2 point conversion at that point of the game, especially the way he had been playing up until that point. That didn't make no sense to me at all. It just seems like the coach does not want the distractions of the Shador Sanders, Deion Sanders thing. He doesn't want those distractions in Cleveland. I could tell just by his personality, he doesn't like those type of distractions. He considers them distractions. I don't consider that distractions. I think Shador Sanders is going to be a really good quarterback. I think if he gets someone that truly wants to develop him, get behind him, the sky's the limit for Shador Sanders. I really do. He has the star potential. He has it all to me. Like 364 yards today in the snow, like those kind of conditions, that showed me how impressive this kid is going to be. So I got a lot of faith in him, Shador Sanders, and in Cam Ward. So that was a good matchup to see, even though their teams ain't doing well as a whole. But that was a good matchup to see today. So I hope to see Shador Sanders down the line in Cleveland. I hope they get some coach that really believes in him and they get the right system in there because 364 yards, and you're the top passer of the day. I mean, that says a lot for me. And that's hard to do in the NFL. Like, you have to be even the top passer for a week. That's so hard to do in the NFL. So, but Shador Sanders, he looked really good today. I got to give him his props on that for sure. Let me see. The Indianapolis Colts, that was a tough loss for them today. Can they get back into the mix? They possibly can, but I mean, Daniel Jones was already playing with a broken leg. And then the fact that his Achilles goes out like that on a non-contact play, it wasn't even contact. I mean, I think it could be a one and done deal for him in Indianapolis. And then Indianapolis probably going to have to go and look for another quarterback. Riley Leonard, he was thrown up in there. Brett Rippon is the only other quarterback on the roster right now. So it's looking just very bleak for the Indianapolis Colts right now after starting off really hot at the beginning of the year. But that's how the NFL works. You can start off real hot, but you can fade real cold at the wrong time. And you do not, especially at the end of the year in December, you don't want to go on 3-game, 4-game skids ever of losing and then have to have a win to barely get in. You don't want to ever play like that, especially in December. So that right there, that was great. The Buffalo Bills come back against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was impressive because I thought Cincinnati had that one in the bag. They were up 20. I think they was like up 29-18 or something like that. I think it was 29-18. Joe Burrow was looking to Jamar Chase, and I don't think he meant to throw that pass, that first interception, because it left his hand. But, I think you could tell he wanted to pull that back. He didn't want to throw that. But that ball had other plans in them weather conditions. And then number 47, he was right there, put his hands up, made a great play. Didn't get tackled, took it all the way back for a pick six. But then the next interception, boy, I mean, the big ass hand going up and swatting the ball up in the air. Like, those are two very bad plays for Joe Burrow back to back. That put them, I don't know, I don't see them. It's going to be a real scratcher. They're going to have to scratch their way and claw their way back into the playoff race because that was a big game they needed to win. And if they won that, that'd have been huge for their confidence for the rest of the games, for the rest of the year. But that loss, I think that probably stuck a fork in them. That probably was the nail in the coffin from the Cincinnati Bengals. I can't really see them getting back into the playoff mix at this point when you still got teams like the Texans. You still got teams like Buffalo still right there. I mean, you still got a lot of wild card teams that are really good ahead of you. So that's probably another, next year for them as well. So I mean, Joe Burrow, he just has to stay healthy for them to be competitive. He got to really, really take his care of his body. Injuries happen; they're unfortunate, but you got to find ways to prevent them so you can keep playing. You know, that's just how it works. That's how the cookie crumbles on that. Let me see. The Broncos and the Raiders. The Broncos continue to win. That's all that matters. They don't, have when they have a lesser opponent like the Raiders, people expect them to blow them out by like 30, 40 points. But I'm sorry, a win is a win. And right now, I believe they have the number one seed right now. Because, New England had the bye this week, so they have the same record. But I believe they have the tiebreaker for the number one seed. So at 11-2, they're riding really high. Uh, can they continue that into the playoffs? Yes, they can. They have a very exceptional defense. The offense hasn't been really consistent this year. I think today they might have put their better game. They put together a better game this year more than last year. Um, because last year they was just so inconsistent on offense. Bo Nix was trying to still figure that out, even getting into the playoffs. This year, they're slightly a little better, but I still think the strength of this team is the defense. That's what's going to keep them in it, all the way. Uh, right now, the Raiders, just a complete mess right there. This is Pete Carroll's first year there. I didn't see people don't pay attention about Pete Carroll. So Pete Carroll, when he was at USC, his first year, it was like mediocre. It was 6-6. He was still trying to get used to the regime of the college game. How the talent worked at that level. Then the next year, you got to remember the 2002 Trojans. He took that team and took them, exalted them to some good heights where they were the number 4 team in the country at the end of the year. And then from there on, the dynasty happened for USC. So he did that there. Then when he was at Seattle didn't have a good first year with him. He was still figuring that team out, getting that team together. And then after that, boom, here comes the Legion of Boom era. He built that team up into a winner. And then with the Raiders, I think he could do that with this team too, but he just had to do the same thing. This is the same process. So the quarterbacks that are out there, everybody's all crazy for that Fernando Mendoza, stuff like that. I think they just going to have to really look and see a guy they want for the future. If there's a young quarterback prospect they see, they're going to have to really just do some good research and evaluation from the talent coordinators that they got, the draft coordinators that they got. Then they could build something there. Ashton Genty, I think he's a good running back for them. They got, some good receivers, young receivers. I don't think they're number ones, but there's some still very talented young receivers. But the Raiders, they're going to have a long way to get built back up and to be in that legendary silver and black from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then some of the 90s and early 2000s. But it's been some years since they've been, even contenders. So we'll see what Pete Carroll can do with that. But the Denver Broncos at 11-2, they're riding high for the mile high for sure. And we'll just see what they can do, down the stretch. Their real big matchup is against Jacksonville 2 weeks. Who would have ever thought that at this point in the year? But, at 11-2, you can't beat that at all. You can't beat being 11-2. Let's see. Tomorrow's matchup is Philadelphia and the Chargers. In my opinion, that's a must-win for both teams at this point in the year. So I believe whoever wins that game is going to have good momentum for the playoffs. If the Chargers win that game, it's really going to help their playoff chances for that wild card to keep a hold on that wild card spot they currently have. The Eagles, if they lose that game, you're just going to be hearing more chatter and questions about how the offense is run because it's really going to be on that offense. The defense has not been playing up to par the last few weeks at all. They have not been playing up to par at all. But I just think that they'll still get into the playoffs. And, everything changes when you get into the playoffs. It's a whole different ball game when you get to the playoffs. So, like that that's going to be a good matchup for Monday Night Football. And it's really at this point in the year, who wants it more? So the Chargers or the Eagles in that one. But yeah, like the games today, they was all good. Now Baltimore and Pittsburgh, that was for like pretty much divisional. Baltimore losing at home like that, and they done lost to the Bengals and to the Steelers in consecutive weeks, like at home. Like, and those are games they in years past, especially the last 2-3 years, that Lamar would take over. They would win those games, but Lamar is not running the ball like he used to, and I think that's kind of this is why the record is like it is. Like, it's crazy that he's been more of a passer this year, and the record ain't adding up. Like, and it could be he could be getting slowing down where he can't run like that no more, and he's got to adjust his game now. It could be that too, but the defense is not the Baltimore Ravens' legacy of defenses from years past. I think that's become like a surprising weak point for this team. Because usually Baltimore has top of the line defenses every year. They haven't had that, especially this year. Last year, you might have said you started seeing the decline of that. But this year, for sure, it's been a huge decline for them. Pittsburgh, that right there is a scary team if they get into the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, because Aaron Rodgers, if he gets in there, he still got enough left in the tank to win some. I think win one or two playoff games for sure, and don't let him get to no AFC title game. Like, he could really turn back the hands on the clock right there. So that's a pretty dangerous team if they get in. From Aaron Rodgers' perspective, I don't know about their defense. I'm not going with no. I don't see no steel curtain defense there, nothing like that. But Aaron Rodgers, though, and then you also still got DK Metcalf, who showed up today. I forgot all about DK Metcalf before he had that big 30-yard plus catch. You know, that's a dangerous team right there if you got those two type of players on your offense for sure. But yes, it was a good day for the NFL. The games was very competitive. You know, so down the stretch here, we're going to really get to see what these teams are really about. But like I said, those Jaguars, boy, they really came up big today. They took that number one first place in the division in AFC South. Just continue winning. That's all they have to do is continue winning. It'd be a big win for them next week if they could get to 10 wins. They haven't had 10 plus wins since 2017, and that was a great year for them as well when they almost went to the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. So, we got some, New England is back in the mix. After being last place in their division, they're right up there at first place. Possibly a number one seed, number two at the at the least. So New England has been a surprise team. You also got in the you got them. Buffalo still there. I mean, Indianapolis is still in the mix. It just depends on, like, do you just utilize Jonathan Taylor as the offense, and then you're gonna have to like work in the passing game with whoever you got. Like, I think that's probably what they're gonna have to do for the next 2 weeks at least. Give Jonathan Taylor the ball, make him the priority of the offense, and then the pass comes second. Because Riley Leonard was thrown into action today, and he came in there and he did decent. But like taking the safety and stuff like that, that's showing that you're not your play right there. You're showing you're a rookie when you do stuff like that, when you take safeties and stuff like that. So they still in the mix too in the AFC. I mean, the AFC is still pretty wide open for wild card spots. Uh, so that's going to be interesting there. The Minnesota Vikings, they won today, but I don't see them coming back into the mix at any time this year for the playoffs. Too much inconsistencies at quarterback for them. That's been a problem. J.J. McCarthy, I think he needs to get evaluated like immediately to see what he's going to do long term, because concussions are very serious at any time. And like he's had like I think multiple ones this year. So, that's another story. The New Orleans Saints, they won. I don't know how they was able to pull that one out today against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they did beat them in Tampa Bay too. So Tyler Slaw, or Slaw, whatever you say, I think it's Slaw, but he had it. That was his biggest win of his career right there against Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay is another team where they look like they could be juggernauts, but then they lose games that you think they should win. So very inconsistent play right there down the stretch. If they get in, playoffs is a different story. We don't know how things go. It's one game at a time. Stats don't matter. All that matters is if you win your possession on offense. If you are able to score field goals, touchdowns when you have the ball offensively, and your defense can hold at least 2 or 3 possessions of scoreless possessions or getting turnovers on possessions, that's all that matters down the stretch. Nothing else really matters down the stretch except that. But overall, the NFL, it was a good weekend for the football this week. But down the stretch, man, there's going to be some exciting games down the stretch, and to see who really wants, especially in the AFC for their wild card spots there. I mean, it's wide open right there. Anybody could take it. Whoever wants it, they can get it. So, but the Jaguars is in control of the division. The Denver Broncos are definitely in control of their division. Pittsburgh is in control of the division, and the Patriots. So those are the division leaders at this moment. In the NFC, you got the LA Rams in the NFC West. They look good. They rebounded back from they lost last week, so they look good. You got also San Francisco, still a good team. They still got some left in the tank there. But for going off the divisions, the Rams, the Bears, in the NFC, the Eagles, the NFC East, the Eagles still, and then in the AFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still at the top. But you got to remember the Carolina Panthers are still in the mix there as well. So the NFC South, that's kind of open still for those two teams. It could go either way. And Carolina has definitely been better this year for sure. The development of Bryce Young has really come to, excuse me, that really has come to fruition. The development of Bryce Young. Rico Dowdell, he's been their best free agent signing this year at running back. He's brought a new element to that team running the ball. So, like, they have some good pieces there in Carolina. They have been surprisingly very, very good this year. So there, right there, that's a good matchup for the NFC South down the line for sure. But yeah, so that was my NFL weekend roundup for the week 14. I'm looking forward to the NFL week 16 matchup for Jacksonville when they come play Denver. That game could possibly be for a number 2 seed. Who knows at that point after next week? But I'm really looking forward to that matchup in a few weeks. But man, yeah, that was my NFL weekend roundup for the Sunday games. I possibly could do one tomorrow night just to wrap that Monday night football game up. But I just think that I don't even know who could win that one. It's a toss-up. It's just whoever does win that game is going to really help them down the stretch with their confidence. The loser of that, they're going to have to like pretty much just reevaluate what they have down the stretch, see what kind of like offensive game plans they're going to use down the stretch, defensive game plans. If the loser is going to really have to do that. So, but yes, until next time, that's Opposing Sports.